So good afternoon, everyone. My name's Kerry Jones, and it's my pleasure to host this session today entitled Discovering Magnet and Pathway to Excellence. In a previous role, I was lucky enough to be Magnet and Pathway to Excellence Programme Director at Nottingham University Hospitals, which was the first dual designated Magnet and Pathway to Excellence organisation outside the UK. And I guess it was there that I witnessed the dual impact of these nursing excellence programmes in terms of registered nurse job satisfaction and retention. But also in terms of what that did for nursing clinical outcomes and patient experience. So in this session, we're going to explore these programmes further, and in particular, how they elevate and empower the registered nurse to lead care at every level, and the impact of this on organisational outcomes. So we're going to start today with two speakers who are going to explore, I guess, the foundation of both models, which is shared governance or shared professional decision making, and how that is a vehicle for really empowering clinical nurses. So I'm going to hand over to Professor Sue Haynes, Associate Director of Nursing at Nottingham University Hospitals, and Aquiline Chevenge, who is the Shared Governance and Inclusive Leadership Lead at the same organisation.
Thank you very much, Kerry. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, thank you.
So myself and Aquiline Chevenge are delighted to be here today just to share with you very briefly some of the work that we've been doing at Nottingham University Hospitals over the past 10 years now to really embed and develop shared governance as a model of nursing leadership. So I think we have some slides which the team might be sharing. Is that Hannah? If we could share a slide. We are both working within our organisation, really developing the potential of early career nurses. Thank you. So next slide, please. So our shared governance journey started back in 2012, and Aquiline, my colleague, is going to share with you some of the examples of that, so you can understand some of how the practical ways we're implementing these changes. For those that are not aware, maybe shared governance is where we're introducing a collective model of leadership, where there's collective decision making, and staff at frontline, centre stage at the front line are making the decisions about practice and things that are important to patients, and managers take on more of a facilitative leadership role. And the tree diagram you can see here is something that one of our first councils developed to represent what shared governance was about. It was about listening, acting and improving. Next slide, please. And here are the core principles of shared governance. Whichever model we're utilising across different organisations around the world have utilising shared governance. But it is about accountability, equity, real ownership by frontline clinicians around from ward to board, and partnership working. Next slide, please. And one of the things we've worked very hard at within our organisation through developing a shared governance culture is utilising shared governance at the heart of all of our development processes. So this model here just reflects a bit of our strategic approach and our strategic nursing plan to implement an inclusive approach to talent development, where we're looking at attracting, developing, managing and evaluating our progress with shared governance at the heart, because shared governance allows all members of staff, whatever level they are, whether it be a ward support worker, a registered staff nurse who may only have just started their career, to really take up opportunities for leadership development and career development. And this is a model that we are implementing across our nursing midwifery strategic plan now. It'll be going into our third phase of strategic development. And Aquiline, I think, next slide, please. I'm going to hand over to Aquiline, my colleague, to really talk about what that means in practice. Thank you.
Aquiline, I think you're on mute.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Okay, thank you. So I'll start again. My name is Akola Njivinge. I'm the clinical lead for shared governance and inclusive leadership at NUH, and I work with Sue and the Institute of Care Excellence. I'm going to share with you our shared governance journey at NUH. So our journey started in 2012 with only one council, which was in an acute medical unit. And we had the council for 6 months as one council. We were trying to see whether the model was going to work for our organization, and truly it did. So we empowered the council members, and we had some funding from Foundation of Nursing Studies to help us empower the shared governance facilitator and also the shared governance council members. So we started with one council, like I said, and then it progressed to about 5 councils in 2013, and then up to now, we've got about 80 councils within our organization, and the councils are made up of multi-professional staffs. We've got unit councils, which are dealing with patients' issues or patient problems or innovations from the shop floor. We've got themed councils, which run across the whole organization. For example, the BEM Shared Governance Council, our Research and Evidence Council, and also the Digital Council, which also runs across the trust. The projects which have been covered are from patient care and staff experience, and also for helping with the patient outcomes. We've developed the leadership at all levels and evidence-based practitioners from using shared governance as a model of leadership within our trust. We have got a structure when we started, we didn't have a big structure, but now we've got quite a massive structure, which is under the Institute of Care Excellence, where I've got the lead myself and a team of shared governance educators. Okay, next slide, please. Thank you. So when we started Shared Governance Council, we made it clear that everybody was invited to be a member of a Shared Governance Council. We mostly wanted to encourage our newly qualified nurses to join Shared Governance Council, and also student nurses. So at the up to date, we still have quite a lot of our student nurses who are coming in as associate members, and when they finish their training, they are coming to join our institution because of the opportunities they found through Shared Governance Council. We also advise our junior colleagues, our junior midwives, to join the Nursing and Midwifery Nursing Board, which is they ask their leaders in their different divisions or their pathways, they ask for permission to go to be one of the board members on the Nursing and Midwifery Board. And what we do, we've got a program which we run every 12 months. So each member is elected to be on the board for a period of 12 months. So they attend 12 meetings per year. What advantage is given to them is when we have our midwifery council meetings, our midwifery board meetings, one of the assistant directors of nursing, who is actually luckily Sue with us, she will have a pre-meeting with the staff nurses to make sure that they understand all the papers that are coming through for discussion, and then we make them feel quite empowered to have a decision or to be involved within the professional discussions and decision making within the Nursing and Midwifery Board. And then after each meeting, then they stay over again. There's a post-meeting with the assistant director of nursing to check in whether they understood all the professional discussions which have been happening. And this has been proven to be really successful. We've actually had staff stories who said it made a difference. It gave them the opportunity to start mingling up with the senior nurses, and they gave them confidence and to keep going, and also the confidence to network and also be presenting with senior colleagues wherever they were. Thank you very much. Next slide, please. So one of the stories, we've got so many stories which I wanted to share with you. I know we are time constrained, so we've got one story for Sarah. So Sarah was a newly qualified. When we started our shared governance journey in 2012, she was one of the first council members of our first council, and she really enjoyed the permission which she was given at that point of her career to be innovative. She ended up gaining confidence within herself. She never knew she was going to be a leader, but that shared governance gave her that opportunity to lead and to network with other members of the team and also outside her ward. So she went on and progressed and applied for a job as a deputy sister in one of our new wards in cardiology, where then when she went there, because of her confidence and the knowledge on shared governance, she was then nominated to be a chair for shared governance, which actually, if she hadn't been exposed to shared governance, she would have said, no, I'm not ready, and I can't chair a meeting, I can't do the minutes, I can't do this. But because of the experience, a positive experience, she accepted the chairship. And then they went on and did the council, their council went to be really progressive. They had a big project which was across sites. Our hospital is quite a massive hospital with about 17,500 staff, and we're on 3 sites. So most of our patients she worked in cardiology. Before they had their cardiology surgery, they had to go onto the other side for max fax to have their x-rays done to check if they've got any dental issues, which meant that we lose a staff nurse for nearly half the day, and also an ambulance member, and an ambulance taking the patient down to the other unit, to the other campus, to have all the x-rays done and then come back, which was quite a disruptive one for the staff members, because then it meant they were short of staff all day when this staff was with a patient. So the shared governing council, they got together and discovered, they looked around to say, where are the problems? And then they made a case with all the what they wanted to do. So they came out with a solution anyway. To cut the story short, their project managed to get the trust to procure another extra x-ray machine on the same campus where she was working. And then that stopped all the traveling of the patient and unnecessary traveling. And from that, Sarah has now proceeded to be, she then went and become a ward manager, and now she's actually our practice development lead for shared governance, and she's talking about shared governance to everybody and also to our master classes. So that is just one story. We've had other staff nurses who have now gone to pursue their clinical academic careers, and they are moving on quite well with their careers because of what shared governance did for them. Thank you very much. Next slide, please. So again, through shared governance, we are developing and recognizing diversity of talents through the career pathways and fellowship opportunities because of the leadership qualities they get as a shared governing council member. Most of them are going forward to apply for fellowships. For example, we've got the Early Leadership Nightingale Career Leadership Fellows, Chief Nurse Fellows, and then the funding for education and degree dissertation, which we are doing in our trust. And we've now got advanced practice for clinical and academic careers, which are opening to all staff who are coming to work with us. And we are also inspiring students because they are seeing that there's an opportunity and a clear career pathway within our trust, which is why we are having quite a good relationship with our newly recruits. Next slide, please. Okay, so as we all know, the pandemic has been really hard, but luckily, because we had a culture of shared governing council where everybody they felt involved, and the staff were quite empowered to look after each other during pandemic. Our shared governing councils really worked hard to keep the staff morale going, and also there were some projects which we kept going during the pandemic, and it helped staff to stay focused. And we know our journey continues post-pandemic. We know everybody's tired, but because of the different innovations which are happening within the shop floor, we find our staff are still quite keen to work for us. And actually, we are still recruiting more staff who are coming to us. We just had our open event, and we had quite a lot of interest from newly qualified staff from all over the country. So we are quite happy with what we are going to continue to do regarding shared governance. Next slide, please. So thank you very much for listening. We've put our email addresses there. There's Dr. Sue Haynes one, and the Twitter, and then myself. If you want more information, we've got our Institute of Care Excellence. We've put it down. We've put the link there as well. You can just visit our website. There are lots more information on it as well. And through our shared governing councils, we have also published some publications about shared governance council, which are on the last slide, please. If you want to move on to the last slide. Okay, thank you. Those are just some examples of how we use shared governance culture as a culture change for our organization. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you so much, Aquiline. And we'll have time for questions at the end. Wonderful to see how that shared governance is giving that opportunity for early career nurses to progress and gain confidence, and more importantly, have a voice inside organisations. So having talked about this as one of the foundation stones for both Magnet and Pathway to Excellence frameworks, I'm now delighted to introduce Rebecca Greystone, who is the Vice President for the Magnet Recognition and Pathway to Excellence programs at the American Nurses Credentialing Center in the US. And Rebecca is going to outline what these frameworks are, to help you understand how they are used to empower and elevate the role of RNs. Rebecca.
Great, Carrie, thank you, and good afternoon to everyone. I happen to be in Ireland at the moment for another wonderful initiative that's going on around Magnet. So I'm delighted to be with you all this afternoon, and thank you, Carrie, for including me. I believe Andrea or Hannah will show my slides. I do want to introduce a little bit around the Magnet recognition program from Magnet, ANCC as the credentialing body, and talk to you today about the differences between Magnet recognition and Pathway to Excellence, especially as you're embarking on this wonderful work as fellows. You're going to want to understand and I think have a little bit of knowledge around the best of the best, excellence in practice, and how these frameworks, as you've already heard, are really starting to and reaffirming changing practice and supporting nurses and other professionals in practice. Next slide, please. So just a small bit of history and orientation around the framework for Magnet and where we sit in America. If you go to the next, please. Well, I'll tell you since it hasn't come up. So the American Nurses Credentialing Center is part of the American Nurses Association. So we are the credentialing side, the credentialing branch of the ANA, and we do a lot of work around organizational and individual nurse. No problem, Hannah. Getting a message they're going to fix my slides. We do a lot of work around individual and organizational nurse credentials. And so why is this important? Well, it's important because as nurses, as a professional body, we need to we need to ensure that we are self-regulated, that we are self-governing, and that we are demonstrating with our medical colleagues and other colleagues in professions that nurses follow the evidence, we follow the science, and the evidence has shown over time the importance of looking at standards, looking at peer review, looking at leadership. How do all of these things collectively come together? So in ANCC, we have 4 credentialing programs. As you can see on the left, 3 of them are around organizational credentials. I'll speak mostly about Magnet in the green, Pathway in the blue. We do have an accreditation there in the gray and purple zone. That's around accrediting nurse residency programs as nurses are coming into practice, like many of you, and also moving from one practice setting to the other. So those are accreditation programs to support nurses, to support your education, your onboarding. I think they call it induction here in this part of the world. And also on the gold, in the gold color on the right, is really around individual nurse certification, which is saying, I have a level of competency in my professional practice, and I've sat for an exam to demonstrate that. Next slide. One thing that I'd love to show to an international audience is how important the profession of nursing is around the world and how important that is to the ANCC. Of course, we are based in America, but that is certainly not the limitation. We have organizations around the world, certainly across Europe, across the Middle East, in Australia, the Pacific Rim. We have great interest in South America right now, certainly, like I said, in Europe, and all the countries that I think are represented here in this forum this afternoon. So while it is a program that is credentialed out of the United States, we have a worldwide interest and a worldwide audience. And this slide, I think, demonstrates that achievement. Next slide. We really believe that ANCC is a framework for excellence. It is not just a single U.S. focused only program. Certainly Magnet and Pathway are 2 of our organizational programs, but really this fosters a framework for excellence no matter where you are practicing or where you will practice over your career. And there are 4 main principles that really flow within all of the work that we do, which all of the work in ANCC is based in science and based in evidence. We really believe that while this is a nursing professional credential, these two, and certainly the individual accreditation certification, it really is about the entire healthcare workforce. We're all working together, and we believe these are the tenets or the principles that underpin all of the components that surround nursing excellence. So it is about interprofessional work. It is about empowerment, about engaging nurses and other healthcare colleagues. It's how do we advance the professional practice? How do we sustain and introduce and sustain a culture of excellence? So again, just providing some foundation of how this program began. Next slide, please. We also noticed that when the work of this program, Magnet, really started around 30 years ago, it was not at the time considered part of the Donabedian model, but that Donabedian model does provide a conceptual framework. So it's really surrounding both Magnet and Pathway to Excellence. What are the structures that are within the healthcare organization? You just heard some wonderful examples at NUH around how shared governance and shared decision-making has transformed the nurses' lives, and perhaps even Aquilene mentioned their aspirations. They never thought they could do these things, and now they can. That's underpinned by processes. What are the things that are happening in the healthcare organization to support shared decision-making, to support engagement? And how is the organization changing its leadership style, its expectations of nurses? And then the third part of this process, this model that Magnet and Pathway are framed in, is outcomes. So you have structures, you have processes, but what are those actions really doing? Are they really making a difference in the lives of practicing nurses? Are they making a difference ultimately in patient outcomes? So that's the framework that underpins the Magnet and Pathway to Excellence models. And there's a few differences I'll go through in a moment. Next slide, please. So let's start with Pathway. Pathway to Excellence has been part of the American Nurses Credentialing Center credentialing portfolio since about 2007. And it's framed in 6 standards or 6 domains. And you can see this has so much relevance to the current work that all of you are engaging in professional nursing, which is around decision-making, the importance of leaders, the importance, of course, of quality and safety for the individual nurse and practice, and also safety for patients and the outcome, and our obligation as nurses and professional providers to make sure that patients are safe in our hands. Well-being, I want to focus on that for just a moment. Well-being is a special, unique aspect of the Pathway framework, and it stands out among all the other programs, even Magnet, I would say, around an entire standard focused on the well-being of nurses that are practicing in Pathway to Excellence designated organizations. Next slide. So these are the standards or the domains for a pathway. As I mentioned, you just saw that in a circle in the model, but this slide, and I'm sure we'll share these slides with all of you if you would like, those domains or those categories have particular definitions and expectations of pathway organizations. They must meet these standards. They must demonstrate these standards. And the nurses that are working in pathway organizations must validate to the ANCC appraisers, yes, these things are really happening, and we have policies and protections around pathway. Next slide, please. This is just a few testimonials from international and domestic organizations, and that really talks about the prestige of an organization deciding to voluntarily go through the recognition or designation process. These are not required in any country that I'm aware of, certainly not in the United States for regulatory or any other type of recognition. It's really a voluntary process to put your organization through these peer-reviewed programs to say, we believe we have these structures, we believe we practice with quality and safety all through the work of nurses and our interprofessional partners, and we're going to apply and be evaluated. And that's some of this material here that you see in front of you are testimonials from organizations that have gone through the recognition process and how it has transformed their environments. Next slide, please. And you'll hear more about this from others on the presentation. Quickly, just going through the magnet recognition. So now I'm switching from Pathway, which is one program. Now I'm moving to magnet recognition. This is the current magnet recognition model. You'll notice there are 5 domains or 5 areas of focus, all surrounded by global issues in nursing and healthcare, because we all practice in the context of our countries, of where we work. But it's really important to understand that the foundation of how this model came to pass is based in science. It's based in evidence and based in the original research that surrounded magnet recognition back almost 4 decades ago now, about 3 decades. We just celebrated our 30th anniversary last year. So really important to understand these components. So it's around leadership. It's around how are the structures, what are those structures within healthcare organizations? How does that influence professional practice? And the final, down in the bottom in blue, is the expectation that magnet designated organizations are striving for new knowledge. They are innovating, and the improvements are demonstrable. You'll notice in the back is empirical outcomes in orange, and that touches every single one of these 4 circles. And what that means is for magnet recognition, you must demonstrate that empirically there are outcomes that are tied to each of these 4 concepts or domains within the program. You'll notice that didn't happen in Pathway. The Pathway program validates practice through the voice of the nurse in a Pathway organization. Magnet does that as well, but takes it to the next level, which is demonstrating empirical outcomes in these various domains or sections of a magnet designated organization. Next slide, please. I'm just going to go through these quickly because I think I just have a few more minutes. Again, we're happy to share these slides with you. One question ANCC is asked a lot is, well, what is the difference between magnet and Pathway to Excellence? One item I just mentioned, which is the difference between demonstrating empirical outcomes and achievement of excellence through the outcome, the so what, question. And Pathway to Excellence that program is really focused on building the structures, building the process measures, nurses' well-being, implementing evidence-based practice, where magnet is generating new knowledge, looking at satisfaction, at patient outcomes, and so on. Next slide. As I mentioned before, Pathway is renowned for safeguarding well-being, and goodness knows we've certainly needed that in the last few years as nurses have been challenged like never before, particularly as we've worked our best and still do to make sure that we are taking care of each other. But there is a real acknowledgement and recognition of clinician well-being and the importance of that and the commitment of those structures and processes to really help organizations and nurses and other practitioners manage the things they identify as what would be helpful and supportive in working in the work environment, and making sure that they balance those important areas. Magnet does the same thing through slightly different voice. There are nurse satisfaction. That's one tool Magnet uses. Also supporting autonomy, protection, that nurses can speak up without retribution. So the voice of the nurse is critically important in both programs and demonstrated as well through Magnet. Next slide, please. Almost done. And then again, if you work in a Magnet organization or Pathway to Excellence, there is a validation process. Again, this is a peer-reviewed, these are peer-reviewed programs. If you work in a Magnet organization, there is an on-site visit, so written documentation is provided, and then the appraisal team actually visits the hospital and checks in and validates that everything is what was written is really happening. Pathway to Excellence, similarly, except there's not a visit. There's a confidential survey that directly aligns their nurse's voice, and the survey results must meet a high standard of excellence within the healthcare organization. Next slide, please. This is just an article. If you're interested, the Journal of Nursing Administration, we do often publish around the differences around programs. So again, just an important article that you can look back in the literature for 3 decades, but we've done more recent articles around and journals and manuscripts written around the differences, how they're complementary but yet distinct and rigorous in their own right. Next slide, please. Oh, that's the end of my section. So I think, Carrie, you're going to manage any questions that people have, but I'm happy at the end if we have time to answer any questions around Magnet and Pathway. And thank you for the honor to present today.
Thank you so much, Rebecca, and it's really great to have that outline of both Magnet and Pathway. What I would ask colleagues on the session to do is to start to think about any questions you might have and post those in the Q&A box, and then we can address those at the end. But now I want to move on to what does this really mean in action. So we've now got 2 stories really from organisations that have adopted the Magnet framework. And the first of those is from Ahmad Hossawi from Faiki Care in Jeddah, where he is the Chief Nursing Officer. So thank you, Ahmad. I'm really excited to hear your story.
Well, thank you very much. Okay, you still all right, going back to the slide. Thank you. Thank you very much for the invitation and the great actually discussion in this framework. In fact, Rebecca and Acreditation, just they make my life easy. Here we are. What actually I'm going to share with you here is the short journey we had during last 3 years. Maybe I'm going to emphasize more about the preparation of the Dr. Suleiman Faqih Hospital as part of our Faqih Care company in going into Magnet recognition. So what happened actually early in 2020, at that time we were here in Jeddah preparing for Magnet and working more with the plan and the gap assessment, where we invited Magnet consultant to go with us through the journey. And of course, we always, when you do your assessment, you'll find a gap, and that's our purpose, to work on this gap. But all of a sudden, in just 2 months, COVID-19 knocked our door. So as we all experience in the world, things shift. So now we're speaking about another term of our life, another model of practicing perhaps healthcare in general. And always when we encounter challenges normally get us with opportunities that maybe it can help us to navigate. So in this short talk, I'm just going to give you a little bit of snapshot about our milestone journey in the journey of Magnet recognition. And also some of the examples and the outcome so far. Actually, we are getting it while we are in the preparation phase. So I love this quote, which is from Dalai Lama, as saying that whenever there is a challenge, there is also an opportunity to face it, to demonstrate and develop our will and determination. Of course, COVID brought lots of challenge. Maybe we can conclude this challenge in burnout, especially in context of nursing practices and nurses and in general in healthcare. Lots of challenges, changing of legislation and curfew and travel ban. And so it caused lots of pressure with these changes in system, changes in guideline, and even all our line preparation for Magnet, we were actually in major question where to go. Shall we continue in achieving and moving forward in our dream, or perhaps focusing on what we call practice day-to-day issues and facing the challenges and those unknown challenges with those extreme stress situations. So we tackle the plan, and we look into when we need to go back to the track, we need to keep the momentum of flow momentum. Normally, when we practice in an environment which actually goes with stress, when it comes to the practice, the nature of the environment, the nature of that particular timing, normally people, they go in constant stress. And when nurses, health professionals, the entire system, everybody in stress, of course, there will be no focus on what they're supposed to do when it comes to their perhaps achieving goals, or perhaps going extra in different projects and achieving other milestones with when it comes to the to Magnet journey. So we put lots of energy in keeping our nurses on flow status. People, when normally their flow, they are actually having moderate stress, but also their performance is high. So and in order to go for this, actually achieving this goal, we work as a team in a model that call focusing on our dreams in terms of the exploration, and focusing actually in our day-to-day practice issues in terms of exploitation. We will stuck if we just stop and submit to the fact COVID-19 is the only life going to be for now and future. So therefore, we take this work together, and we come up with this model where we divided our projects and our dreams in terms of exploration and exploitation, and we put team to focus on each sides. At the same time, we put more energy to work on building an environment of what we call a healing environment. So when it comes to healing environment, we need to work on an environment that can keep people attracted, people they feel meaningful, they feel positive environment, and that's where it comes to the heliotropic effect. Heliotropic effect it's a physics concept where it says that everything has a tendency to lean towards positivity. So we work on positive practices, be it's in the training where we train all our leaders to practice positive leadership, injecting them with more of empathetic leadership qualities, authentic leadership qualities, and so on. So it was more of workshop, and as well as demonstrating different mini workshop for nurses to look into also their what we call reawakening purpose. So we use it as a storytelling sessions where nurses, they can ventilate and share their experiences together, and that's helped us actually to elevate a little bit of the pain that was there, at the same time keeping people towards focusing on positive sides. And this was actually part of the work that we reflected on from Kim Cameron, who actually done a lot of work on organizational virtuousness, where he focused on positive practices and positive leadership. The concept says that when we focus on abundance gap in terms of the positive sides, the extra positivity that we can flourish, supporting nurses, leadership, visibility, encouragement, recognition, and so on. So we put more energy on that to help us in achieving the heliotropic effect in that particular domains or timing of COVID-19 challenge. And that's actually give us ability to look into the work that we need to focus in terms of transformation leadership, where we keep the momentum of Magnet. And after we put lots of energy in terms of building the capacity, the positive environment, the heliotropic effect environment, that take us more to put more energy in the practice of alignment between the vision and mission and the values. And we've done lots of workshop to prepare nurses and to go through this and cascade it in different projects that aligned with the component of Magnet domains when it comes to the shared governance, when it comes to the professional practice outcome, and so on. So we take this and also we convert it to a meaning, as maybe we reflect I'm trying to speed a little bit, just watching the time. So as we look, in order to build a positive environment, nurses, they need to have a meaning of what we do. Why we go for Magnet? What is all about Magnet? So we work hard to do this alignment by using the concepts and the qualities of transformational leadership and engaging them and helping to build. Also, we work together to build our professional practice model where it helps in giving meaning. So and that's give us more ability to go in our journey. Here also, this slide shows the alignment we done in practical sessions. So where we work on cascading the vision and mission with our nursing strategic objectives and directions, and we make it in a form of project, and we aligned everybody with from the team leaders and bedside nurses with different committees, high-level committees, just to ensure that we are going in achieving our exploitation and exploration model I mentioned earlier. This also some of the projects that we work on it and we develop it, and we are in order to achieve all our goal, especially when it comes to the empirical outcome in terms of Magnet component and directions. Here, some of the momentum of how we also engage our nurses in helping the community during COVID-19 as part of our journey, at the same time being and meeting the challenge of the momentum. So here in the Western provinces, in Saudi Arabia, in Jeddah, Mecca, and Medina, so we were able to have a major project where it's run and led by nurses, by serving and facilitating major service for vaccine, as well as corona test camp for mass group. So we were able to lead this, engaging nurses, as well as opening recruitment opportunity for allied healthcare professionals, be it they are labs or dentists or doctors who work with us, and they got opportunity to develop their to engage in the community service at the same time having benefits. So that's part of of having the momentum aligned with our journey. Here also some of the some snapshot shows the activities that we've done in building the professional practice model, where it's run by nurses, and we've done it in almost over 8 consecutive months of activities from different units. We come up with competitions until the winners, they get this out as a product of professional development model that we now practicing it, and people and our nurses actually align with everything they do accordingly. Here, another initiative also we were able to do during this timing, where our nurses, they come up with initiative in collaboration with home care, as well as social corporate division here in our DSFH, where we actually propose to help orphans. So we do have orphan organization where we get some of the orphans who are candidate to go through certain health aid programs, such as caregiver, for instance, for home care. So our aim that to take them away from that pandemic time and the crisis time, to engage them in giving them more skills and competency, as well as to help them to get more engaged with community, especially when it comes to home care as the caregiver. In addition, we give them line to have a training for being caregiver in hospital and supporting nurses in different domain, as a caregiver, as a patient escort. So we were able to graduate them, and now, alhamdulillah, they started their work, and they became employees with us here at DSFH. This shared governance model, and that was also another great activities that we were able to do it during the pandemic, in great engagement with everybody, until we come up with our model, and we're practicing the model, and eventually we we achieved the first shared governance model accreditation in Saudi Arabia. So we were able to get the accreditation from the Forum of Shared Governance that was taking place a few months ago. And what we done here, we aligned everything we do with every single components of our shared governance in terms of the unit-based council. And I'm sure we had a fantastic talk earlier this session about shared governance, so I'm not going to go more further in this, but this is some of the examples of our alignment, where we aligned the shared governance unit-based council with every single component, and that's how it gives us what we call cascading the vision and mission and our nursing strategic objectives, as well as the unit-based council chair and the members. They will be able to figure out those alignment and work accordingly with everything they do and achieving the initiatives, as well as the KPIs they need to go through it. So we were able for the first time.
Ahmed?
Yes,
sorry,
time?
just make a note, we've only got 10 minutes left of the session. So
okay, so just for the sake of time, I may just jump and maybe just another example of the achievement during this pandemic time, where our nurses were able to achieve 5 research during 2020 and 2021. And now they're working for another 5 research, and this actually research activities goes by their service line. They work on publication, 2 of them, and they're working also for presenting in an international symposium. So this is actually some of the snapshot of the activities we done, all actually aligned with this journey. And here is just to show the outcome we gained so far by having this example, and we can see the achievements of in the NQI, where we were able to go and sustain in the last few quarters beyond the performance we were before COVID-19, and we can see from quarter 3 in 2020 up to now, we are actually going forward in a beautiful journey by achieving our measurements in the NQI. Here's the accreditation we achieved during this time. We achieved for the first time the ANCC for continuous professional development from ANCC, as well as we achieved shared governance, and we are looking forward for next year, April, to submit our final stories and application, the stories for the application. So thank you again, and sorry for the lengthy talk.
Oh no, that's fantastic. There's just so much amazing stuff in there, isn't there? It's just wonderful to see how you've taken forward the framework and already delivering really great results for staff and patients. So at that, I'm going to bring in Rasha Shaheen, who is the Magnet and Nursing Quality Manager from Faki University Hospital in the UAE. Rasha.
Hello, Carrie. Hello, everyone. Thank you. I'm honored to be on such platforms speaking to all of you. I won't take a long time since we're running out of time, but basically me and Ahmed are from the same mother company. We belong to Faqih Care. I work in Faqih Dubai, Faqih Hospital, and I'm going to share with you our experience in developing a shared governance, in developing a strategic plan for our nursing department for the coming 4 years. Next slide, please. So as we all know, most of the hospitals, they have their own strategic plan, but it is rarely that you find nursing departments making a strategic plan or making a future plan. We get busy with the operational plan of day-to-day problems and OVRs and things, and that we forget to do our own planning. Next slide, please. I can name few hospitals that have a nursing strategic plan. Here came the idea of having our own strategy and having our own goals, and that these goals should be coming from the nurses themselves. It's easy to get a consultant, it's easy to get someone who will tell you what to do, but it will not be realistic as much as when it comes from the real nurses who are working on the hospital. So this is what we did in Faqih Hospital. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. we wanted to have a vision with a plan, because a vision with a plan is something that can change the world. It is not only a dream or something that the nurses will feel is chores for them, but they will feel that they belong to this plan because they have made it. Next slide, please. So in January 2022, we did a nursing survey and we sent 13 short questions to all the nurses of FUH, asking them to give their perceptions about what they think they want from the Faqih University Hospital, or from the nursing department in particular. Where do they see themselves? How do they envision nursing in general? What are the resources they request? What are the challenges they face? We asked them if they know what is the current vision and mission of the nursing department, because we had a vision and a mission and values, but we did not have a detailed plan. Then after that, we collected all of these data and we analyzed them. Next slide, please. We had a 72 feedback collected, which is almost 50% of our nursing workforce, which we are 169 now. Can we have the next slide, please? And this is sample of the answers they have shown. We asked them, what are the major challenges you face to attain the desired future? And the 75% went to staffing and manpower. And then we see that the second one is the interprofessional collaboration. And the third one comes the education and training. And this highlighted for us what we need to do in our strategic plan and where is our major focus, or where our major focus should be. Next slide, please. One of the questions was what resources you need to attain your desired future, and 74% they needed autonomy and decision making, and this will focus our planning towards shared governance and giving them their autonomy and decision making. 69% they wanted training and continuous education, and this reflects their answers in the first question. And then we had 57% they wanted to be specialized and competent and having special skills, especially in specialty areas. Next slide, please. What makes nursing unique at FUH? We wanted to highlight on the strength, and it was like leadership and support, which we really have and acknowledge here. And then second place came teamwork and collaboration within the nursing department, and then the nursing workforce by themselves. Next slide, please. After that, in February, we called for a team. It was a core team that was led by our CNO, Chief Nursing Officer, Mr. Muhammad Faqih. We had nursing educators. We have a group of nurses from different disciplines, I mean like levels, including like nurse supervisors, nurse leaders, managers, charge nurses. We even included junior nurses who are recently joining the nursing department. It was a little bit awkward for them to be all joined on this platform, but it was so exciting because everyone got engaged, everyone got the chance to express their feelings and talk and give ideas. It was a guided session, but they were given tools to analyze, to give to feedback, to do analysis, and to interact in brainstorming. Next slide, please. We reflected, we developed, we revised the vision, we revised the mission. We told them to focus on what is the strength, looking into commonalities, looking into this common vision between all of them. And then we presented all the feedback responses of the other nurses, and we integrated everything together in order to come up with a revised vision, revised mission, and a set of strategic goals. And then we divided into teams, and each team started to focus on working on one of the goals and what are the suggested objectives, smart, how we are going to execute this plan. And then after that, we made like a discussion. Each group will go out and discuss with the other team members, and then everyone will have an feedback. Next slide, please. This is a sample of what we did. We started with a theory. It was a short time. Then it was all hands-on. It was all interactive. Next slide, please. It was, there was team engagement, there was focusing on communication, how to accept others' feelings, how to accept others' opinions, how to make sure that we are going for a shared vision. It's not my vision or your vision or the CNO vision, it's Faqih University nursing vision. Next slide, please. We did our SWOT analysis as well. Can you move, please, with the second slide? This is another sample. You will see the strength slide on the side. Everyone were putting those colorful ones to give more or to add. Then we had on this one with the excellence, patient, and people in growth. These are the goals, and we were discovering what can we do and how we can prioritize as well. Second slide, please. This is our nursing vision. We want to be the beacon of hope for patients and nurses, the guide nursing to lead change, embrace lifelong learning, establish excellence in practice, and implement innovative professional and evidence-based nursing. Then our mission, next slide, please. It is that we are committed to raise the bar of delivering high quality and compassionate person-centered care by creating positive and diverse work environment, fostering professional development, intercollaborative practice, and excellence in safe academic environment. Next slide, please. These were our values, and I can't explain to you or how much the nurses were proud of these values, because it represented their values. It represented what they wanted and how they want to be guided in Faqih. And it is boundless, empowered, accountable, compassion, outstanding, and nurse-driven. And this is the beacon. Next slide, please. We did our nursing strategic direction, and we focused on 5 areas. That is nursing excellence, person-centered care, how we are going to go about quality and safety, professional growth, and innovation and discovery. I couldn't go into details because of the short of time, but each strategic goal of this had its own strategic priority goals. And then each strategic priority goal had its SMART objectives that are specific and timely, and when we are going to do them, and with the accountability. Next slide, please. I'm almost done. Next slide also. Next slide. We focused a lot on how we are going to monitor and evaluate the process, and we made sure that all the team understand that plans are not rigid. There will always be sometimes deviation. We need to be flexible. There will be mistakes that will happen, and we need just to monitor and keep monitoring the outcomes to make sure what we need to change, what is going good on our plan, how far are we moving forward. Next slide, please. This is what we wanted to prove, that if you made just a project without monitoring it, then you will not reach the right place. You might end up somewhere else. Next slide. This is just a sample of the feedback from the junior nurses, and I emphasize on the junior nurses because it's something new to them. They said that this workshop was very interactive and useful to attain hospital goals. It is very informative. The workshop was very interactive. Every input was acknowledged, and everyone was equal. I was able to envision myself grew in the things I have learned, what are the stops and what are the things that I needed to be done to provide an excellent care to my patients and my profession. Next slide, please. This comes to the end. I wish I can speak more about that, but what I want to say is that when you bring strategic plan from the eyes of nurses themselves, it's totally different than bringing it from the eyes of experts. It makes it real. They talked about their strength, they talked about their struggles, and they saw how we are turning these struggles into goals. It was really amazing. It's one of our major nursing achievement for 2022, Q1. And thank you again, everyone, for listening to me and giving me this opportunity. Thanks, Carrie and Nursing Challenge. Thanks, Hannah.
Oh, thank you, Rasha. And wow, imagine if every nurse in the country could have a voice in creating the vision in their own organisation or community and could actually be part of priority setting. What an incredible thing that would be, wouldn't it? And I think everyone, you can see there's so much to say about these frameworks and how they liberate talent. They give nurses a voice, and that translates into fantastic outcomes for patients, but also great job satisfaction for nurses. And of course, that's critical if we're going to retain nurses across the globe into the future. So mindful of time, and you've got a networking event coming up, but I've asked Rebecca to answer some questions in the chat for you that were specific to Pathway. I'm then just going to briefly bring Aquiline in to answer the question around, and I think a lot of people want to know this, Aquiline. What do I need to have in place if I want to move forward with shared governance or shared decision making?
Okay, thank you. Am I? Yeah, I'm not on mute anymore. Okay, thank you very much. I think for you to start off shared governance in your organization, first of all, you have to get the buy-in from your senior leadership, because there's going to be really there's a need to actually give the nurses the time to innovate. In our organization, we're lucky enough we get 6 hours per month for each nurse who takes part in shared governing council. So it is important to get the buy-in from your senior leadership, and also to have a structure, because you can't just start shared governance without any structure. There has to be reporting structures, and also somebody who has to help organize the council. So the big investment on shared governance educators, I think, is the most important thing, because I know some organizations have tried to use the clinical educators as educators for shared governance. Sometimes it is actually a full-time job to educate people on shared governance, and also to monitor and help them, support and coach them in order to be confident, because some of the nurses, they've never chaired any meetings, they've never done any minutes for meeting, and they are too scared sometimes to network with senior managers. So you need to empower them to say, yes, everything is possible. And once you get that lead off, you can't stop them. That's when it just flourishes. So thank you.
Thank you, Aquiline. And at that, I'm going to close the session. I'd like to thank our speakers, Rebecca, Ahmad, Sue, Aquiline, and Arasha, for giving us a whistle stop of Magnet and Pathway to Excellence in action. And I'd also like to thank you all for participating. I'm sorry we're a few minutes over, but always when we talk Magnet and Pathway, things burst at the seams in terms of what people want to share. And also thank you, Nursing Now, for the support and also giving us this opportunity to share and bring us as a community together. Thank you. Goodbye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Goodbye, everyone.
Thank you.